What does a cowboy do? What do cowboys never do? What are the symbols on my vest? Where have all the cowboys gone? Well, today, folks, I'd like to answer all y'all's questions that you have about what it is to be a cowboy. And I'll try to answer them as honestly and truthfully as I can. And all the questions on the internet, if you have any more later on, just put them on there and I'll try to get to you. Do cowboys still exist? Well, you're looking at one. We are an endangered species. Not many of us left around in the world anymore, but there are a few of us left. We do exist. But what I want to emphasize is it's not what you do, it's what's inside of you that makes you a cowboy. And if you don't perform what's on the inside of you, then you ain't a cowboy. Well, we exist for a lot of different reasons. Ranchers and cattlemen still need cowboys. Not as much as they used to, because they got all this new technology and stuff they use. But in order for a rancher or a cattleman to, even for him to exist, he has to have a cowboy. And that's why cowboys exist. We do all the things that the rancher and the cattleman don't want to do. Some of them have done it, but cowboy's born for it. It's inside of him. That's what makes him a cowboy. What does a cowboy do? Well, first of all, he rides a horse. Sometimes he rides a mule. Sometimes he drives a wagon with a team of mules or horses in front of him. But the most important thing about a cowboy is that he works for the rancher and the cattleman. That's his master. Sometimes you have to get off your horse in order to do what the rancher or the cattleman wants. Sometimes you have to fix fence, ride fence. Sometimes you have to stay in the lion shack in the wintertime, check on the cattle. Sometimes you gotta dehorn, brand, castrate. Sometimes you gotta pull a calf from a cow because she'll die if you don't. She's having problems. I could probably go on for another 30 minutes on about what a cowboy does, but it's the little things that's most important. What does a cowboy do on a ranch? Well, basically, it wouldn't be a ranch if a cowboy wasn't there. The owner's there, all them other folks are there, but the cowboy works on the ranch. He works for the rancher, he works for the cattleman. He does his job. He does it to the best of his ability, and he does it with pride. What do cowboys never do? There's a lot of things a cowboy don't do. We don't wear tennis shoes because it gets your feet wet when you take a whiz. We don't drive cars, mostly pickup trucks in our culture today. We don't accuse our horses of being equines, whatever an equine is. We don't smoke marijuana in Muskogee. We don't spit on the sidewalk or carry a pair of wire cutting pliers in our britches when we're walking down in Texas because it's a law that you can't do that. We don't insult women. We don't insult men, but we don't excuse rudeness. If you're rude, then a cowboy will do something, especially if you're rude to a lady. We don't mistreat our horses. We don't treat animals. We feed them and we take care of them because they're our friends, our brothers, our sisters, our family. We don't mistreat animals, period. We don't like working for somebody we have no respect for, such as a bad cattleman or a bad rancher. And if they are bad, then we simply saddle up and ride away. Now, I'm tired of talking about what we don't do. Well, I've had a lot of horses in my life. Horses don't live too long. 30, 35 years max, I guess. My two horses I brought up to Colorado, Jake's and Copper. Jake's died at 23. Copper died at 22. They were half brothers. All the other horses that I've owned have been just as special to me as those two was, but they're the last two horses in my life. Being a nomad and traveling around the country the way I do, it's hard to take care of your horse. Time marches on, we ain't here for long. That includes horses. So I ride one every now and then from my friends, but I don't get that opportunity too often. I can still ride, even as old as I am. But I'll stay on the ground for a while, but I'll get back up on a horse. The difference between riding a mule and a horse: a mule is a little bit more sure-footed, depending on what kind of terrain you're in. A horse is good on flat ground, good on open ground. Sometimes when you get into the mountains or the rocky country, a mule's got more stamina. He's got more good leverage with his feet. He knows how to get to a place and make you more comfortable getting there. Mule don't work for a cattle drive. A horse is made for a cattle drive, and the best horse made for it's the quarter horse. There's other horses that's not quarter horses, but they don't have the stamina or the physique that a quarter horse does. And cattle drives, you got a rope, you got a herd, sometimes you got a lead, and your horse is the one that's doing it. That's why you have to have a good cow horse. Just because he's a horse don't make him a good cow horse. Herding cattle is a hard experience, but if you've never done it, you ain't a cowboy. Well, at least you ain't got to the point of being called a cowboy. Does cowboys get branded? Yeah. We get branded on our hands and our arms when we're pulling them branding irons out of the fire. Sometimes we'll slip and slide on the cow manure or horse manure around us and accidentally put that branding iron on our leg or maybe on our arms or our hands. Sometimes we get branded unexpectedly. I got branded on the butt when I was coming out of my shower one day at the cabin. Had my towel wrapped around me and I had this furnace going up there beside the wall. The towel fell off of me and I bent over to pick up the towel and my butt hit that fire with that metal on it. So yeah, I am officially been branded. I'm a cowboy by choice, but I'm branded for life. Where do cowboys come from and where do they live? You name it, and a cowboy lives there. He can live in the city, he can live in the country, he can live in a tent, a lion shack, a big ranch house, whatever, underneath the tree with his horse. Where does the term cowboy come from? Comes from the original word vaquero, meaning cow, vaca. We learned everything we did from the vaquero. It was the original cowboy. but sometimes we couldn't pronounce the word vaquero. So we used the term cowboy. We worked with cows, and most of us were boys. We weren't grown men, we were boys, and that's what started the cattle drives. Young teenage boys that worked cows. That's what a cowboy is. Where have all the cowboys gone? Well, this cowboy's sitting right here in front of a fire, smoking his corncob pipe. The reason the cowboys about where they've gone is they ain't none of them to go nowhere. There ain't many of us left. That's why you think they're gone somewhere else. They just ain't many left anymore. But I'm hoping that a little inspiration in our culture today will bring back some of the old cowboy traditions and feelings and inspirations that cowboys have. The reason there's not any more cowboys anymore is because the horse has been replaced with ATV, them four-wheeler things. He's been replaced with helicopters, been replaced by pickup trucks. He's been replaced by all the massive technology that exists today. We're just not of much value anymore as far as raising cattle, working cattle. I think they've even got machines that can build fences now. Not that a cowboy likes doing that, but that's one of the reasons there ain't many cowboys around anymore. As far as replacing a cowboy with technology, some of the technology that we have today is much better than what the cowboy existed with. I ain't never used an electric branding iron before. Not that I even know what one is, but they do use them today. But the technology used is quicker and faster, but it's not the cowboy way. The cowboy way is the old way. That's why there's not many of us left in this culture anymore. The legacy of a cowboy versus what a cowboy is today are sometimes pretty varied. Cowboys are doing things today that we just didn't do back in the old days. I'm not an athlete, and that's why I didn't stay in the rodeos. Because if you rodeo, you're an athlete cowboy, I reckon. I'm just an old cowboy. The future generation is coming up. They need to go back to the old days to find out why they carry the handle cowboy. And once you find out what the handle cowboy means and represents, I think you'll start living that life in our society today. But you got a long, hard road to hoe if you plan on getting there. You ain't a cowboy until the old cowboy says you are. That's just the way it works. What's missing from society now? Well, I guess ain't but one word. What's missing is love. We don't have that word. We don't know what that word means anymore. The word love is a verb, it's not a noun. It's your actions that display what's missing in our society today, and it's love. What are the symbols on my vest? I have a lot of them. I have the Alif Ta. I guess when you look at it, it's a V with an X. I have a lot of brands on my vest from some of the ranches I've worked on. Some of them are branded with the branding iron. I have the name of the creator on my vest. Yad-Hey Uahe. I have a lot of other symbols that just represent my sons in the Marine Corps. Have a lot of other symbols on there that were put there by cows and bulls and horses, and just being a cowboy. That's what my vest is for, to remind me of all the days that I've lived and all the days that I'm going to live. Symbols are important to many people, but I wear them to express my love and my gratitude for all the things that I've enjoyed in life. And that's what those symbols represent. Well, I've worked on a lot of ranches, but most recent ones was C. Lazy U as a wrangler up there in Colorado. I worked on the Hartize Ranch. Worked on the Circle M Ranch in Indiana, wrangling there. Worked on the Purgatory Peak Ranch. Worked on the Crawford Ranch. Worked on the Kennedy Ranch. I worked on a couple of them up in Montana, but I can't remember the names of them. I got the brands on my vest, though. That's what symbols are for. I worked quite a few ranches. My first job was when I was 13 or 14, don't remember. Hollywood, California. River Ridge Riding Stables, Griffith Park. I was a wrangler there. I taught some movie stars. I reckon, I don't know who they were, but I taught them how to ride horses. Now they got cowboys, or some cowboys, working on them movies that show them how to ride. I worked all over the country. A few foreign countries. Cowboying down in old Mexico, Canada, United States. I can't remember them all. What would be the best inspiring thing for a young cowboy to do? I think the first thing would be to sit at the feet of old cowboys and cowgirls and keep your mouth shut and your ears open. That don't mean everything they say is going to be something you can use, but you'll glean some good stuff out of it. Listen. Think. Involve yourself with every aspect of a cowboy. Some of it you'll like, and some of it eventually you'll love. Not all of it, but most of it. If you're a young cowboy and you want to be a cowboy and you've got that inspiration to be a cowboy, the first thing you got to do is get a relationship going with your horse. If you ain't got that, then you ain't no cowboy. That doesn't mean you have to run cattle just because you ride a horse. Wranglers ride horses. They train horses. Cowboys ride horses and move cattle. A lot of other different things. But a cowboy mostly won't work unless he's on his horse. And that's what a cowboy is.